Hey, hey, for whom the bell tolls. It tolls for us. That's 3 o'clock in the morning here in England. I'm talking to you from all around the world tonight. So hello, welcome. I'm Coxy. This is Slew Space Camera. Got a different show for you tonight. Still got some nice live images for you though. So without further ado, I am going to explain all of the normal housekeeping stuff. If you're watching on YouTube Live or you're looking at the Google Hangout, I would recommend that you go and view this on the Slew homepage, because you can then control the telescopes and which telescope you're looking at. We've got a number of different views tonight. Actually, just come to think of it, you may have flashed my watch there. My watch actually does 3 time zones. It's pretty difficult. English time, UTC, which is kind of universal time, which is what astronomers use, and then everybody who works for Slew is in the States. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to screen share. I know that some of you can't view this either on the home page or you watch the recorded copy of these. They're all on the Slew On Air video YouTube channel, so you can have a look at that. But I'm going to screen share, just show you what you lot can do while I am working this evening. So I'm just sharing in the home page. Here you go. There it is. You know what it's like now. The embedded show is in there, so you still get to see my ugly mug every once in a while, and the screen share, and you also get to hear it, obviously, but you do get to see the live views from the telescopes. Now, our subject matter tonight doesn't really suit the half-meter telescope, but what I've done is I've left that feed in anyway, so you can just take a look to see what Slew members are looking at tonight. So that, I can tell you, is the Andromeda Galaxy. And the quick flash of blue we had before that looked like the Pleiades open star cluster to me. So anyway, you can carry on looking at the view of the half meter if you get bored with me doing the main topic of tonight, which is making astronomical time lapses. Astronomical in more ways than one, hopefully. We've got 3 views tonight. That looks like the Orion Nebula finishing off in T2 high mag and T2 wide field. And yes, it is. Oh, I love that. Now, what I've scheduled for T2 high mag and wide field tonight is a little bit of a mixture. We've got Uranus. Uranus is at opposition tomorrow, and we're doing a special show. Now, if you keep your eyes on the high mag view, things are getting a little blown around tonight, and the seeing isn't very good. But if you should be able to see some tiny, tiny little dots next to Uranus, which will look like a very bright star, probably. You might see a little bit of duck egg blue colour on it. But what you're seeing, those little dots, are Uranus's satellites, Ariel and Miranda and stuff like that, I think. So that's what's going to appear in the T2 high mag view and also in the T2 wide field view, which is actually what we're using as the subject for this time-lapse demonstration tonight. And actually, there's the first image on the wide field. You can see there's quite a lot of gradient in this. I had to override one of Slew's settings, which was proximity to the moon, because whenever you try and take an image close to the moon, it puts a lot of what's called gradient in the background of the image. So you can see here that the moon is probably to the east, the left side of that image. But these 2 little dots here, this one that I'm pointing to on the screen share in the Hangout, and this one here, those are the subjects of this time-lapse that we're going to do. One is Uranus, and I believe Uranus is now this lower one of the 2, and this one is 44 Piscium, which is the thing that I couldn't pronounce last night. Obviously, it's in the constellation of Pisces, and you call it's the 44th star in Piscium. Right, so that's its name. And then I have always also had a couple of, there's the all-sky view, Orion coming up once again. Notice how Orion's getting higher and higher every night when we do the shows at this time. It's getting higher and higher. Shows that winter's coming on. I tell you, you're going to see me in front of a wood-burning stove soon. And there's the moon. It's on its way to setting. So, yeah, we've got that as well. That is a waxing gibbous moon tonight. Now I've been asked by a couple of people, look, Paul, what can we see outside at the moment? So I've included a couple of star charts here. I put one there at dusk and one there at dawn. These are for anybody living in the Northern Hemisphere. It doesn't change that much depending upon, exactly where you are in the Northern Hemisphere, but, they're there. Now, I know you won't be able to see those that clearly Actually, they don't come out too badly at all, do they? So I'm going to screen share those in because people have asked me, Paul, what can we see? We love seeing the views through the SLU telescopes every night, but what can we see? I'm going to leave this view tonight, by the way, on... Oh, there is Uranus. You can just see it, and it's a bit streaked because the wind's probably got to the telescope, but you can just see two little blobs below the planet. The spike coming off it is that saturation I told you about on the CCD camera. I'm going to leave this on the half meter. You guys can keep watching the flicking between the different feeds as the show goes on. But people have asked me, we love seeing the views through the live telescope, but can you tell us what we can see? If we go outside with our own eyes. Well, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put another screen share in here for you because you'll probably be able to see these charts a little bit better. And I've done two charts. I've done one for what you'll see at dusk and one for what you'll see just before dawn. So this one here is after dark. All right, so the main things to see after dark. What have we got at the moment? In fact, that is next Wednesday. Right, so what I've done is I've done a daily breakdown of what you might want to see next week. If you pop outside, you do all of this with naked eye or just a pair of binoculars. So Saturday, don't forget, we've got a big show tomorrow, so please don't go outside tomorrow night. We've got a big show with the harvest moon. That's the first full moon after autumnal equinox, and it's Uranus's opposition, as I've said. I'm then doing, so we've got two shows actually, one at 3 hours earlier than 4 hours earlier than, so this is where the conversion comes in, 3 hours before the start of this one, and another one at this time. But I'm also doing a third show tomorrow night, if that wasn't good enough, because we've got an Io transit going across Jupiter, and that's going to be 2 hours after the time of this show. So join us tomorrow night for Harvest Moon, Uranus, and Io transit across Jupiter. That's going to be a busy night, but we're still coming back for more on Sunday. We got the special members show where I'm going to have some SLU members in the hangout with me, and they're going to control the telescopes to see what their favourite objects, and we're going to talk about them live. That's probably going to be an hour show on Sunday. That's going to be at our normal earlier time, so 3 hours earlier than this one. So during the week, what can you see? Well, Tuesday night, what have we got? Yeah, Tuesday night, but early in the morning, so just before dawn on Wednesday. If you look east, you are going to see the magnificent sight of Venus and the star Regulus, which is in the constellation of Leo. And they're going to be incredibly close. Now, Venus is going to be so bright that even with your naked eye, you might not be able to see it. Let's have a look at the dawn image that I've got on here. Come along. I'm stretching my machine tonight, folks, so dawn, there we go. And I'm going to zoom in down here. And you can just see, so if you look east, you can see the constellation of Leo, and just above the horizon, so this is going to be about, probably about 6 o'clock local time in the Northern Hemisphere. You're going to be able to see Venus in this, really what is usually a bright star, that looks like a bright star, which kind of forms the bottom of what we call the Leo question mark. It's a back to front question mark. You can kind of see it here, can't you? Forming in this backward question mark. So it's going to be pretty easy to spot anyway, because Venus is just so bright. Have a look through a pair of binoculars though, and you should be able to distinguish between Venus and that bright star Regulus. They are going to be so close together, 7 arc minutes apart, which even fits into our highest magnification telescope, which is the T2 high mag. So hopefully some SLU members will image that pairing, and we can show you some images maybe on the Wednesday night show. Wednesday and all week, kind of. If you look at dawn, if you go out at dawn, look straight up, and the very, very bright star that you see, or what looks like a bright star, is actually Jupiter. point a pair of cheap binoculars at it and you will see Jupiter's moons. All right, so never be disappointed by that. So that's almost directly overhead, and then every single morning you'll see bright Venus rising in the east. But between Venus and Jupiter, you'll see another very, very bright object in the sky, and that's actually Sirius, and they form nearly an equilateral triangle in the sky, so it's an absolutely beautiful sight. And then you've got Orion there, which is virtually overhead as well, so that kind of really joins the view. And that's going to be all week, really. Don't forget, coming up to the end of the week now, in the evenings, the Milky Way. So if you've got nice dark skies and you see the Milky Way, which is our galaxy, it looks like a big cloud stretching across the sky. It's setting earlier and earlier, so shortly after dusk falls, you might just glimpse a bit of that in the kind of southeast, something like that, but there can't be any moon around for that. Next Friday, look east, and before the waning moon comes up, so around kind of east. Yeah, actually, this is in the evening, around 10:30 local time, something like that, and you can see the Andromeda Galaxy, which is fantastic. It's one of the furthest objects away that you can see. So I'll point out where that is on this chart, and it's over here. So you can see the constellation of Andromeda here, and M31, the Andromeda Galaxy, is up here. If you look back on the Andromeda show I tell you exactly how to find it. But it's usually pretty easy to find. Naked eye, it looks like a bit of a fuzzy, cloudy star. But if you look at it through a pair of binoculars, it looks like an even bigger, fuzzy, cloudy star. It's only through a telescope with some magnificent CCD cameras and stuff like that, clamped to the back of it, that you're really going to see the kind of image, actually, that we saw with the half meter. We saw that was Andromeda on the half meter a minute ago. And then next week, and we've still got some great stuff. The moon is going to get really close to several things. It's going to get close to Jupiter. It's going to get close to the Hyades. That's that big open cluster. It forms a great big V. It forms the kind of horns of Taurus, if you like. So there is plenty to see. Now, I have linked on my Google Plus stream those two charts for you, so you can see those. You can download them and view those on your own machine. So, what have we got tonight? We have got Astro Time-Lapses. Wow, that's fun. Now tonight, I'm going to do two of these shows. Don't forget, if you're on the home page, you just joined us, you can flick between the telescope views. I'll just share that really quickly so you can have a look at that instead of me. So you can just flick these little triangles and it'll go between the three views that we've got. Which are pretty fuzzy tonight. So, but anyway, have fun doing that while I talk to you about what we're going to do tonight. The reason why I did this show, how to make astronomical time lapses, is because a lot of you will have seen the time lapses I make. I'm absolutely crazy about them, nutty about them. I love doing Jupiter when it's rotating. I love doing it with the moons crossing Venus and then getting hidden behind. I love doing the asteroids, the comets that we get, where you see the comet or asteroid going against the background star. I love all of that stuff because it kind of brings the universe and our solar system to life to me. We often look up at the sky, it seems so static, doesn't it, other than the odd meteor kind of shooting through. But this kind of making astro time lapses, it just shows us how dynamic our solar system is. So that's what I'm going to show you tonight. I'm going to do two shows. The first one tonight is showing you how to do it with paid-for software. Now, be warned, one piece of software that I'm going to use tonight called Maksym DL, there's a 30-day trial for it, free trial that you can use for it. But if you buy that, it costs more than an annual SLU membership. So if you were going to pay for anything, I'd pay for an annual SLU membership. In fact, this software is so expensive, it's only $50 short of 2 years membership to SLU. So it is expensive, but there is a trial for it if you wanted to try it out. I'm going to do a second show, probably sometime next week if we got weathered off sometime, and I'm going to use all free software for that. So, but what we're going to use tonight is I am going to share my entire desktop with you. Now, I know somebody emailed me after this. I know that it's not ideal and it's difficult to But to have somebody walk through this in a live environment, I think helps. And what I'm doing, I'm going to be doing not a screen share, but I'm going to record my screen going through the same process, and I'll append that to the video archive of this particular show and the next show. So I just want to show you, actually, before that, we've got some great images here of Uranus, which is our topic tonight, as I said. So here it is. Now, you know, you see this gorgeous, gorgeous duck egg blue, don't you, on Uranus when you see it? And even if you look through a telescope, it has that kind of beautiful colour on it. And, you know, that somebody asked me, why? Why is it that colour? And in fact, it's quite simple. You know, Uranus is very much like the other three planets, Saturn, Jupiter, and Neptune. Saturn and Jupiter are called gas giants, but Neptune and Uranus are called ice giants. They're a lot further away, they're a lot colder. But what actually makes the difference? You know, they still contain a huge amount of helium and hydrogen, and they have kind of lots of other trace elements and molecules and stuff like that. But the third most common molecule in the atmosphere of Uranus is methane, and that is why it is blue. And somebody said, well, why? Why is it blue? Well, we kind of think that, don't forget that the light we see from Uranus is reflected sunlight. And we kind of think that the sun's light is white. But it's not. It's obviously emitting every single color in the spectrum. But what happens is it goes into Uranus's atmosphere. I hope this share is working. Oh, machine's bogging down. I'm asking too much of it again tonight. Methane happens to absorb more red light than it does green. And so most of the light that is reflected from Uranus is that kind of bluey-green color. And that's why we see it as blue. It's just methane is the third largest molecule. Sorry, I'm gyrating with my hands here trying to explain it, but you can't actually see me because you're seeing the screen share. So the methane absorbs more red light, more of the red wavelength light. That's why it looks blue to us. But we are now going to get... and just go through a couple of these other screenshots. Here are the moons of Uranus. You can just see these little white dots here. Zoom in on that a bit. So this one here, this one here, this one here, those are moons. So through the SLU telescopes, you can see the moons of Uranus. There's a fantastic, and actually you may notice, I told you, didn't I, yesterday, that all SLU images have north facing up. Well, if that's the case, why would Uranus's moons be above it and below it? Well, Uranus got a whacking great big clout at some point in its past, and it's virtually tipped the whole planet on its side. And that's why, so from the view that we're looking at there, it actually is revolving from, the axis is from left to right. So that's why the moons are kind of going around it like that. We can't see the rings of Uranus, not very easily unless you've got an enormous telescope. But anyway, that to one side. You want to know how to make an astronomical time lapse. I'm going to step you through it. Don't worry too much. I'm going to step you through it so that you can try it yourself with my verbal description, but I am going to do a recording of this, a full quality screen recording of this. So we are going to use a couple of bits of software, if I can find them. Now, you're going to disappear from me, and let's have a look. So, I've got 3 open already. Not going to have time to show you that one, so I'll close that down. There are a few basic steps in any time lapse. Now, if you've got a fixed camera, like a DSLR camera, have a look at my YouTube channel, Astro Time, and you'll see that I do a lot of kind of landscape time lapses. And the camera is fixed. Now, that makes it really easy because you don't have to do the first step, which we've got to go through now. You haven't got to align the images because the camera is static. You just have to kind of play them one after the other and feed them into a time-lapse animation, and Bob's your aunt, yeah? Well, Fanny's your aunt, Bob's your uncle is a UK expression that probably absolutely nobody watching the show knows about. So in this one though, our topic is Neptune. Now we have to align these images. Now the first thing I'm going to recommend to you, I hope you can see kind of down here, it's my folder structure. Always, always, always keep your original is unedited, totally unedited. So always only use copies when you're doing any form of processing whatsoever. So here are all of the images that I've got, and these are all images that SLU members have taken, and I'm going to drag them into this piece of software called Maksym DL. Now this is the expensive one, don't forget. Even in its cheapest downloadable form, this is a mightily expensive piece of software. But you can use it as a trial if you want to try this. And I'm going to upload all of the images, all of the raw images I'm using tonight. I'll upload those to our Google Plus stream so you can actually have a go. So the first thing we've got to do, because if we look, in fact, I can probably pull up a couple of them a bit larger for you in the screen share. And if I flick through some of these, you'll be able to see that this is Uranus here. I'm just pointing. It's the brightest object closest to the center of the image. And this one down to the right is 44 Piscium, the star. And don't forget, the stars in the background stay stationary, but Uranus is moving against the background stars. But the images kind of chop around a bit as well. So what we've got to do is we've got to align the images because we want a nice smooth animation. So that's what we're going to do in Maksym. There is some free software that I'll show you next time, but in Maksym it's really easy. You just go, you open all the images that you want, go process, align, you say add all the images because it's showing us the images that we've got open, say OK, and then it brings up a couple of other little boxes. Don't worry, because I will record this so you'll be able to see the full quality of it, but I just wanted to talk you through this particular way. There are a number of automatic alignment modes here. So you can do auto-correlation and stuff like that. You can do planetary. Planetary works brilliantly on Jupiter time-lapses. It always does those absolutely perfectly. Doesn't work so well on lunar eclipse images because the image of the moon is constantly changing. So basically what planetary is doing is just looking for the biggest stationary blob of bright light that's in the image. But bear in mind that the only thing that we've got to work out is the alignment of some stars on the image. All SLU images are taken with a telescope on a fixed mount. So there's no rotation between the images. So we're going to use what's called manual one-star shift only. And it pulls up, you've got one bigger image than any of the others, and you can see I've got this kind of little cursor. Now we've got two choices. Do we want Uranus to be stable in the images, in the final time-lapse, or do we want the star background to be stationary and see Uranus moving against the back? Well, if we have time, I'll show you both really quickly. So live images probably stop now on the home page, so you can give me your undivided attention and maybe go full screen so you can see this stuff a bit better. I think for the first one, let's have Uranus moving against the star background. So I'm going to pick the star that we want to make the object that all of these individual images are aligned to. And all I'm going to do is click on it in each image. And missed it. There it is. There it is. Some time-lapse stuff you've got to be pretty patient for. Now, if you think it's boring from, or if I think it's boring from my point of view, goodness knows what it's like for you guys. It's like watching paint dry, I think. But we haven't got many to do. Look how close Uranus and the star got. It was a beautiful, beautiful sight. And it's when you see objects like that in the sky really close, it's a bit like my favorite double star, if you remember, Alberio. It's when you see them both together that you see the contrast, so you really start seeing the color of objects coming out. So I've got to be careful that I pick it. Look at that. We missed a day out there because there was a bit of a jump. So it may have been bad weather or something like that. And the last one is black and white. And it gives you a little noise. It says, yep, you have done it all. Image registered 19 of 19. Now, before you move on, I always do this. I click overlay all images, and it does just that. It overlays all the images. And this is a really, really quick way of seeing, have they all aligned properly? And I believe that they have. You can see where we've got some gaps. So this is the bright star that we aligned on here, and then this is showing Uranus in each image. So you can see we've got one missed here, we've got another one missed there, and another one missed there. So we've maybe got 3 missed, but I'm happy with that, so I'm going to say OK. Now, some of these images have moved so far that we've got a big black border around it. I haven't got time to do it tonight, but what I would actually do with these is I would crop each image using a bit of software, a bit of free software I'm going to tell you about, so that you get down to the kind of lowest common denominator of a field of view. But there's another thing I do in Maksym really quickly. I say File, Write AVI. Images, it shows me a list of all of them. Add all, OK. And I want this at probably 2 frames per second. That would be a good one. And this is just a really neat way of giving a quick test of, is your animation smooth, are all the images aligned, stuff like that. So that it's really quick as well. You know, some programs take quite a long time to do that. But there's my little test AVI. Let's have a look at it. Probably come across a bit jumpy on the screen share, but I hope you can see there that we've got the star is stationary, and we're seeing Uranus traveling across the sky. So the small steps are 1 day. This is one image from every day since the 5th of September, I think it was. And we've got a couple of little jumps where we've maybe missed a night or something like that. But you can see immediately we've made, just in that process, a time lapse of Uranus moving against background stars. Now, if we'd done it around the other way, if we'd aligned it on Uranus, Uranus would be pinpoint in the center of the screen, and we'd see the star background move behind it. So you always have that option. That's the first thing you want to think about. What do I want to be stationary in my time lapse? What do I want to be the moving object or objects in the time lapse? So there it is. We know that it's okay. So that we know that all of those images are aligned properly. So what we can then do, we can just close Maksym and we can say yes to all. Save the changes, in other words. And don't forget, we're working on a copy of our data. Really, really important. Now, the thing I'm not doing tonight, by the way, I'm not carrying out the additional processing. What I would normally do on these images, and especially for SLU Jupiter images, I'm just going to check the hangout, make sure we are still running, make sure you're all still there. I'm still here, I hope you are. Yep, looks like you are. With SLU Jupiter images and Saturn and Mars, I don't think, well, we deliberately don't do it. We don't apply very much sharpening, what's called sharpening to the images. And we do that because any sharpening actually loses data. Every time you virtually do any processing on any image, you normally lose data in one way or another. So one of the common mistakes made when people start over processing their images, and you can overshoot lots of imaging artifacts. You introduce things that weren't really in the image. So be careful. But with SLU Jupiter images, I always apply a handful of sharpening, which really brings the pictures alive. So I'm not going through all the things that I would normally do to kind of tidy up the images before I assemble these time lapses. Now, that AVI was fine, wasn't it? But it was kind of a bit rudimentary. So I'm going to show you another. In fact, I must show you this. A lot of people have asked me, they've seen in my time lapses that I often put a timestamp on them, and they say, Paul, you know, that time lapse, you said there were 500 individual frames in it or something like that. Do you really go through each one of those and add this text on, which is when the time of the image was taken? Well, the answer to that is no, I don't. I go through a really simple little process. I use this bit of software called XNView. You've got to use, if you've got anything to do with images, this is how I do all of my file management. It's how I do all of my mass batch processing and stuff like that. Now, all SLU images have the date and time in the file name. So all of these Uranus images, I'll give you an example, Uranus underscore 2012 09 21 underscore, and then the time 22:01:58, and then a random set of numbers. So I want to extract that somehow. If you've got a DSLR camera and you've taken your images to that, you can easily extract the date and time that the photo was taken in, what's called the metadata, EXIF data, which is kind of embedded in the image. But with CCD images like this, they don't have that, because we're not working with FITS images, we're working with raster images, in this case PNGs, which is what SLU uses for its raster images that are processed in real time. So that information is not embedded in the image itself. So I go through a little kind of workaround to do this, and I've kind of honed it down over the years. It might seem really clunky to you, but if you've got a better way of doing this, then please let me know. But there are all of my images. So these are the images in XNView, this fantastic bit of software. And what you can do, I highlight all of the images, and I go up here to create, and I say, give me a file listing, and I want it copied to the clipboard, and I say OK to that. I've got an Excel spreadsheet. Just, you could use it. It doesn't even need to be this. It could just be a plain text file or something like that. And I copy that group of file names in like that. I then in Excel do a find and replace. Actually, I put that in 2 columns, so I put it here as well. I then just have that right-hand column highlighted, and I do 3 lots of find and replace. One gets rid of the Uranus at the beginning and puts a hyphen between the 2012 and 09, and then the date, the actual day number. Then I do another one which replaces the end of the file name with UTC. And then I do a final one which replaces the underscore in the file name with the letter T. So I land up, probably can't see here, but I land up with the file name which is in the correct convention for writing down dates. So it's 2012-09-05 T 03, that's 03 hours, 59 minutes, 42 seconds UTC. Now, the time is meant to have a colon in between, but you obviously can't put a colon in a file name. Then what I do is I take this little bundle, and basically each line is just saying rename the original file name to my new file name, and if Maksym closes down, Mr. Cox is stretching his machine dramatically, and then I have a plain little batch file, right? And I'll make these available. I'll stick these up with the images as well. So, oops, I've got to actually get to this. So, plain little text file. Come on, machine. Edit that. Highlight the rest of it. Put that in. Close that down. Save it. There it is in the file. Now hopefully you can see this. This is in the folder, so that batch file is in the folder that I want renamed. And if I just click it, you'll see all of those names change beautifully, he said, holding his breath. There you go, to the time. So that is a really, really easy way of doing that. Now what I've done in XNView is I've got this little date stamp. It's like a little macro. So I've highlighted them all, look at them, they've all got their new file names. I right-click on them, I go down to batch processing. Really, if you have not found XNView, I guarantee it will save your life on many occasions. You'll wonder how on earth you got away with it before. I have got a little script in here that just says date stamp. And there it is, and you go over the page, you can see what it's actually doing. It's adding the file name without the .png, without the suffix on it, to these coordinates on the image, which in this case is above. So if I show you one of these images before I do it, And don't worry, please don't complain, can't see this in the Hangout. I had a chap contact me, he was most put out and capital letters in his email saying, how do you think anyone can see this in a thing? Well, yeah, I'm going to record it so you can see it properly, but please don't complain. Right, there's the image beforehand. Before I apply this processing, I say go. Off it goes. Mr. Cox has this, by the way, so he's asking for trouble. Machine working doubly tonight, running Hangout, running webcams. Oh, you're probably leaving. We've been on for 5 minutes. Don't go. We're nearly done. And let's open an image again. And there you see it. It's got the timestamp on it. All right. So that's how I add my file. Actually, I wasn't going to show you this, which means I've got to open up the bit of software that didn't really want to open up when I tried it before. But let's have a look. Don't you think it's annoying? I've actually bought this software, but I updated it, and now it doesn't recognize that I actually own it. So this is called a Jask Animation Shop. It's quite an old program, and there are other programs that do exactly this. I am, by the way, going to show you how to do this same thing with free software in another show, so don't worry about that. But that little AVI, if you remember when we made it in Maksym, we couldn't have any settings in it or anything like that. So this little bit of software is actually pretty good. So I can say, how long do I want each frame to be? Well, 50th in this, 50th, yeah, maybe let's go 3500ths of a second. I'm going to say next. Oh, and by the way, if you make an animated GIF, you can set it to either repeat or just run through once and then stop. I'm going to say yes, put it through, keep repeating it. I'm then going to find my images. Oops. If you can find the folder. Come on, don't fight me. I can't believe I've tried to do so many live demos without rehearsing. I should be shot. Right, I am going to add all of these images, if I can select it. You know, Windows 7, they really busted, didn't they, how you can select select files. Right, there they all are. Check to make sure they're in order. Sometimes it adds the first one onto the last and stuff like that. The only thing I did before this entire show was make a single image, which is just a copy of the first image. There you can see it, and I just overlay some text on it as a title. Right, so that's the only thing I did before that, and I've included it as the first frame in this time lapse. I'm going to say next. I'm going to say finish, and there it is. And so I'll make that full screen so you can see it a bit better. If I'm making this into an AVI rather than a repeating looped GIF, I normally actually just highlight all of the main images. I then cut and paste so that I add length to it, because there's nothing worse, you'll probably agree, there's nothing worse than looking at an AVI on the internet which is so short that you just get blocked with the normal YouTube stuff, don't you, in front of you with adverts and others before you've actually run it. So I'm sure you understand what I mean. I am going to do a save as, and I will do an animated GIF on this one, only because the video codecs on this particular laptop are busted by DivX Pro. Thank you very much. So it's writing it. You know, I still think actually animated GIF has legs on it. The uptake of animated PNG really isn't very great at all. There it is. That's written my GIF. I'll tell you what I forgot to do. The whole reason for using this bit of software is I can select individual frames. So I can select this title frame, say how long do I want that to run. So let's say 250 thousandths of a second. And then I'll write that AVI again. sorry, that GIF again. Let's just give it a second name. Hey, isn't it great? It's the weekend. Yay! Right. Let's. No, I don't want to keep that on my clipboard. Thank you very much. Let's have a look at the finished animated GIF. And what we should see is it should pause on the title frame, that first frame, and then run through the whole time-lapse animation twice. So there's the title. Oh, went a bit quick, so I'd probably want to do that title frame maybe a little bit longer. But there you go. See what the problem was? See what I mean about the frames getting smaller and smaller? Because we aligned on the star, the telescope each night was kind of trying to center on Uranus. So if we'd done it with Uranus, we would have seen virtually a full frame, maybe a little bit of a black border moving around it. But as I say, what I would normally do under when I make these for real is I do a lot of processing and I just crop the kind of lowest common denominator, as I say, where you get the full image. It's a lot easier to do with things like Jupiter, where you haven't got the need for this full star field, and you want to crop quite tight to that anyway. So, but hopefully, if this has shown you anything, it's shown you that actually it's not that complicated. The most complicated thing we did there was adding those timestamps, and probably somebody's got a far easier way of doing that. But if you left that out of it, when we went through in Maksym, poof, it was easy. It was literally, a few seconds, open up. In fact, look, before we go, I know I've kept you a long time tonight, but before you go, let's run through it from beginning to end. Maksym, so there we are. I'm going to open my original images. Told you not to do this. Told you not to do this. I better screenshot, I guess, would help, wouldn't it? Somebody help me. So I've got Maksym open. I'm going to select all those images, all the raw images. Never work on your original images, ever. And in fact, what I do usually when I'm working on a set of images like this, I save them at every single stage. I kind of archive, I make a copy of them every single time. There's Maksym. Don't forget, there's a free trial of this. I'll put all the links for this software and stuff like that up on the internet, but you won't want to buy it because it's too expensive. You'll far prefer getting a SLU membership instead, because don't forget, this is our month of free live astronomy, and it's in support of our campaign because we want to reopen the Chile Observatory to give our members the Southern Hemisphere again, and we're launching this app and we need your support because we've virtually run as a charity for the last 10 years. So we really, really need your help because we want to also actually continue all of our free outreach work as well. So anyway, look, you can see here, Maksym opened all the images, process, align, add all the images in the list. Okay. What do I want to do? I want to manual star shift. If this was a Jupiter, if this was using SLU Jupiter images, I would use the planetary option, which is just really cool. If it's just standard, if you're doing some normal image processing, then usually autocorrelation works really well on SLU fits. But I'm going to use manual one star shift only. In fact, let's do it. We'll do it around the other way. I'll show you what I mean. So this time we are going to center on Uranus, not the star. So here we go. Click there, click. You don't have to be that accurate because this, what Maksym's doing is it's searching for the brightest object kind of in these blue circles that you can see on the screen. So you don't have to kind of try and get pinpoint accurate on this. Here we go. Oh, this is where it gets tricky. Getting close. And I got one more to do. And it gives me a nice little sound. I then do the overlay all images, and what we should see now is the whole star field. There you go. The whole star field is kind of moving, but Uranus is central in our image all the way. So I know that that is okay. So I can say okay to that. If I'm confident of the changes, I can say save all in Maksym, so that's going to save those changes to every single image. And I'm not going to run through the whole process, but what I'll do, I'll run that lovely way that Maksym just creates an AVI for you really quickly, so you can check whether your time lapse and whether your images have come out okay. So Maksym is currently saying not responding, but we'll give it some time. There you go. You've got to be patient in this game. Write AVI, so that's file, write AVI, images, add all, okay, 2 frames per second, okay. What do I want to call it? Test 2. Actually, what I normally do is I normally put frames per second, because I usually try it actually at a couple of speeds to see which looks better. And this at its base level is going to create us our AVI, and it really is quick. Maksym does that even on a very large set of images really quickly, so it's a good way of testing. On my other time lapses, what I tend to do is I only make, I don't title it and stuff like that. I only make the actual time lapse footage, and then I import it into Adobe Premiere Pro. But that's, once again, and you know what Adobe's like, that's an incredibly expensive bit of software. But that's how I usually compile all of my stuff. So look, here is the finished time lapse when we've centered it on Uranus. So Uranus is the thing that's staying in the front, and you see the star field moving behind it. For this particular object, I think I preferred the other method. I think I preferred seeing Uranus move against the background stars. So look, that is, I know that's a really quick screen share and stuff like that, and I know it probably hasn't come through very well in the screen share, but I wanted to get across to everybody who's expressed an interest in doing this that it really is actually quite simple. There are 2 steps to it. At its base level, 1, you have to align the images, unless you've got a static view. So if you see some of my time-lapse movies of Mount Teide when I'm at the observatory, where you see that lovely one of Jupiter and Venus going down in conjunction behind Mount Teide, that one, you don't have to align them because the camera's been staying static. But on Jupiter, on things like this, Uranus, asteroids, comets, stuff like that, in fact, what we've done tonight is, other than Jupiter, where you've got a large planetary disk, where in Maksym you can use just that planetary align method, all of the ones that I produce for this kind of thing, Uranus, asteroids, and comets, I use this method I've used tonight, which is this manual 1-star shift only, because you haven't got to worry about any rotation in slew images. They're always north up. So I just wanted to get across to everybody, look, this is really simple. Gosh, I hope you can hear me. Sorry, it just looked like my microphone was turned off. I've been talking to myself for 48 minutes. It is really simple at its base point. You just have to align the images, and then you have to put them into, create either an animated GIF, put them into an AVI. The free piece of software, if you want to have a go before the next show, the free piece of software to do that, rather than the old bit of software, because that animation shop thing I'm using is kind of donkey's years old, but it's really fit for purpose. There are some free programs, but one of the ones I've had most success with is a free piece of software called Virtual Dub, and that's the one that I'm going to be using next week. The only thing you have to do with Virtual Dub is it has to be, the file name has to be numeric, and in order, and because that's what it reads. But you know, it doesn't give you, once again, the control over individual frames. But you know, you can. What a lot of people do is, if you haven't got that ability that my bit of software had, that said that particular first frame, make that stay on the screen for longer than all of the others, what a lot of people do is they just repeat that first title frame. They have multiple copies of it, so they just insert that for, say, I don't know, 10 or 20 times, which means that at the beginning of the time lapse, when you run it, it just looks, the title stays on the screen for longer. So that is a workaround for that. But have a look at Virtual Dub. That's the one that we're going to be working with next time. Have a look at XNView. Superb bit of free software, absolutely brilliant for any kind of file management, renaming, and also batch processing as well. It really is fantastic. I love that bit of software. Don't know what I did before it. I hope that's been a bit interesting tonight. It's been a bit different for us. We had some nice images as well, hopefully from the half meter. I'll check those after the show, but you guys saw those. This is all for our campaign, our My Sky campaign. So please help us out. If you value these shows that we're doing all the way through until the 10th of October, please lend us your support. We know times are hard, but we're really doing this and putting a lot of effort into it. So if you value it, please help us out with that campaign, or just do what a lot of other people are doing and just sign up to SLU. We're in a funny kind of period with SLU at the moment. This time of year can see kind of flashovers of moisture where we have to close the observatory really quickly. But to counter that, to balance that, we also get some of the best seeing conditions, in this run up to Christmas. So somebody asked me, what's the best time of year to join SLU? And I said, well, actually, even though we can be closed some nights at this kind of period, I would join now, because we have the best nights of perfect seeing, which is really important if you are into planetary imaging and stuff like that. It makes a big difference on that. So join us tomorrow night. We've got our special show on the harvest moon and the opposition of Uranus. I've then got a later show tomorrow night. In fact, roughly about this time. I've been so long tonight. I've got a later show tomorrow night where we're going to see the transit of, did I say Io? I think it was Io, might be Europa. So we're going to see that as well if you're a late bird. I hope you've enjoyed tonight. I'm Coxy. It's been SLU Space Camera. See you tomorrow, I hope. Bye now.